They're Romania's biggest demonstrations since the fall of communism. Hundreds of thousands in the streets to protest Parliament's late-night loosening of anti-corruption legislation. The government claims it's to relieve prison overcrowding. The opposition says it's to get the leader of the ruling Social Democrats off the hook in a scandal. This goes well beyond partisan politics. A little over a year ago, there was already outrage over the flouting of rules and regulations in the Bucharest nightclub fire that killed 64 people. How do you fight an ingrained culture of corruption was the question then and now. More broadly, have standards improved since the country joined the EU in 2007? Looking ahead, what are the prospects for Romania and its place at the eastern border of Europe at a time when neighboring Bulgaria and Moldova are warming to Moscow and cooling to Brussels? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at what looks like Romania's boiling point when it comes to corruption. With us from Bucharest, Sebastian Burduja, who heads PACT, the new civic action party. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Also in the capital, Andrei, member of parliament for the ruling Social Democrats, in disagreement, though, over this decree.
Good evening to you all.
He was Romania's Minister for European Integration in the late 90s. Alexandru Herlea heads La Maison Roumaine, the Romanian house here in Paris. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
And we want to welcome Andreea Dumitrașcu. You were protesting, we'll talk about it a little bit more in a few minutes. You were protesting here in the French capital last night. You're with the association, the Café of Romanians, the Café des Roumains. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And with us from the Romanian capital, Sorin Ioniţă of Romanian think tank, the Expert Forum. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
The France 24 debate on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. Up to 300,000 protesters across the country. Again, the biggest crowds since the fall of Nicolae Ceausescu.
This is an unprecedented abuse on the part of the government. It's a blow against democracy and against the direction of our country. Protesting is the only thing that we can do to try to change something as ordinary citizens.
We are raising funds to build a prison so that all those who violate the law in Romania will have a place there. That's how money was raised at one time to build a school. Now, we want to raise funds so that the detainees have the place that they deserve.
And as we speak, we can show you live footage from the Romanian capital. It looks like it's ready for a third night of those big protests. Sebastian Burduja, what's the scene where you are?
Honestly, I think it's a beautiful thing that's happening in Romania. Hundreds of thousands of people across the nation are standing up for democracy. Let's get this straight. The economy here is not doing badly at all. It's among the fastest growing in Europe. We've had unemployment around 5%. It is not anything like the situation in Greece or other countries. People here are simply saying we've had enough of corrupt politicians. We've had enough of laws made for those corrupt politicians. We actually want government to work for the people. And I was there every night, and I can tell you the protests have been very peaceful. It's unfortunate that a few incidents towards last night's protests made it into the media more than they should have. A couple of soccer fans tried to make it look like it was a lot of violence there, but actually it was a beautiful thing to watch. I was in the middle of the Victoria Square in Bucharest, 150,000 people peacefully demonstrating, calling onto the government to pull back this emergency ordinance that is truly an abuse. And it is a significant step back, not just in the fight against corruption in this country, but really in the struggle to consolidate a young and still fragile democracy.
All right, we've seen one minister who's resigned, the vice president of the Social Democrats who's expressed a disagreement, and yet Andrei, the leader of the party, who's come out and saying it's full steam ahead for this decree. What do you say to that?
Okay, so I think there are a lot of topics that we should discuss about the protest. Of course, I would like to state that we salute also the peaceful way of demonstrating, which is a normal course into the democracy. And I think not any other topics about the little conflicts of last night should enter into this discussion. But from my point of view and my fellow leaders into the Social Democrat group, I think we should look and study much more the law and what stipulates the law and what will be the effects of the law. Saying that it will be a step backward against fight of corruption, I think it's a false topic. I think the reason of the protest has been inflamed artificially. Why? Because basically the branded of the protest was the president of the Social Democrat Party, Mr. Liviu Dragnea, that assumed some way or another about the leaders of the protest that this is a law that stipulates.
But he's currently on trial over what, if I believe, the equivalent of 24,000 euros, and under this bill, it looks a lot like he would be off the hook if this new decree is enforced.
No, this is a false topic. The truth is that it's not exonerated by any fault. There are two infringements that can be subject to him and related to him, but this doesn't mean that he will be pardoned or he will benefit of amnesty. So this is the reason that I think most of the protesters were inflamed, and we have this situation at the moment.
All right, let me put to you this question: where does this figure of a 200,000 lei, which is roughly the equivalent of 44,000 euros, below that figure, it's acceptable to accept? Well, some could call them gifts, others could say bribes. Where did that number come from?
But let me be straight, that doesn't seem that this figure or this limit will exonerate anyone for this type of guilt. We can, but 1 second to answer your question, you can search the Constitution, the Court of Romanian Constitution, number 405 from 2016, that make some suggestion about this limit of 45,000 euros.
All right, let me turn to you at this point, Andreea Dumitrașcu. How do you understand the decree, and how do you explain the mass turnout?
About the decree, as far as I could see, I am not somebody from the law, but as far as I could see, there are some punishments that have been reduced. For example, for abuse of power. Also, there has been some decriminalization for some unlawful acts that are no longer penal, but now they are just civil suits. And as far as I read, but I might be mistaken, Liviu Dragnea, normally he's accused of taking something below this bridge. And the mass protest, well, I think is very normal that people headed to the streets. There have been protests all this month. But now the way that the law has been passed,
in the middle of the night,
and before the magistrate could reunite, which was programmed for the morning afterwards, shows that they were in a hurry, and it shows a great disrespect for the Romanian people, and we're not very sure where they are heading, because if they manage to pass this, we don't know what they will pass next.
Sorin Ioniţă, put this into context for us, because just a few months ago, there was an election and the Social Democrats won handily. In fact, you could call it a landslide win for them. Are you surprised to see this many people out in the streets?
everybody's surprised because, yes, go on, please.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Because nobody expected that actually 1 month and a half after they won the elections by a landslide to make such a mess. Actually, what happened 2 weeks ago, it was almost a coup d'etat against the judiciary in the cabinet, coming up with 2 emergency ordinances. And what matters now in the street 2 weeks after that, it's no longer the details of the text. I mean, we could have discussed the details of the text 2 weeks ago, and the people were open to discuss, but they were lied at. So first, they were lied about the real reasons of passing emergency ordinances and not sending normal legislation into the parliament. It was about overcrowding of jails. But that was a lie, actually. The data that were presented was selective, and it turned out that the average is 100%. So yes, some jails are overcrowded, but some are below 100%. So some redistribution could alleviate the problem. Then there was a lie about, you know, a fine from the international from CEDO. And that was not true the way it was presented. It was like a fine would come the next week and then we need an emergency ordinance. That is not true. There is plenty of time to discuss with CEDO if the government shows that they really want to take measures. And then the third thing is that they never spoke about this during the electoral campaign. Last year in Romania, we had 2 rounds of elections, local in the summer and the parliamentary in December. So almost a full year was electoral campaign. Nobody said one word about pardons or these amendments. And suddenly it became the major problem in Romania. So now we are past this stage. No matter what they say about the technical aspects of the text, nobody would believe them. So this is actually the mood out in the street, that they were lied at, and these people are not trustworthy. We cannot have a dialogue with people who keep lying, actually, about everything. So it's very trendy, you know, we speak to them with fake news and alternative realities. This government lives in an alternative reality. And of course, people do not trust them. They made some amendments to the last text. And surprise, surprise, one of the emergency ordinances became a law in the parliament, the one about pardons. So apparently the overcrowding of jails is not so urgent anymore. So how about the other one? Why do we keep the other one on the fast track as an emergency ordinance? There's no reasonable explanation for these things. From the Minister of Justice, who today actually, he said, he delegated his power to a Secretary of State, so he's no longer in this subject. It's surreal, actually.
Yeah, he's taken a leave of absence till February the 7th. Those protests taking place in Bucharest, but also cities like Cluj, Sibiu, and Timișoara, which was, of course, the city which was the cradle of the revolution that overthrew the communist regime. Alexandru, Herlea, when you look at what's going on right now and these images that we're seeing from the streets of Bucharest, how far has Romania's democracy come?
Well, let me start by emphasizing that what happened now in Romania is linked mainly with the state of the nation. It's linked with the situation of how Romanian made progresses towards the respect of ethics, I would say, even of morality.
So this goes beyond partisan politics.
It's linked because some parties are really totally disagree, and they are trying to fight, in fact, ethics and morality. The only objective they have, and this is a key point, in my opinion, is that their objective is to defend only their own interests. They have nothing to do with the country's interest.
Sebastian Burduja, how much of this we've been talking of now? Let's not go over it again. How much of it is partisan politics? Is it a bigger problem than just parties? Is it a mindset in Romania that that says okay to corruption?
I really don't think so. Maybe in the political arena, we have this mindset where politicians think they can get away with anything, really, for the past 27 years. And you see this in how they have been handling this crisis with, I'd say, unparalleled arrogance towards the media, towards the protesters. Yes, we respect you. However, we're moving full force, not changing anything, and really just pushing forward with these tremendous steps back in terms of anti-corruption. And I think it's really a positive sign that so many Romanians took to the streets. It was a surprise for everybody, and we all saw the recent elections. The participation rate was not high. Many people are disillusioned with how the system is working, how democracy is working. And so to see so many people come out and say, this is not okay.
For you, that's heartening.
It's really positive news.
We're going to pick up on these
Absolutely.
points. When we come back, you're watching the France 24 debate.